Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining. We're going to get started here in about 2 minutes. We'll let everybody continue joining. For those of you who have joined, thank you very much. As you know, we're going to be talking about ACM maps and dashboards today. So hang tight for just another minute or two. If you need to grab a snack, grab something to drink, be a good time to do it. Thanks. And all right, we're going to get started here, guys. Thank you all again for joining. My name is Jared Swanson. I am the sales engineer for Western North America for ACM, and today we're going to be talking about ACM maps and dashboards. I'm going to run you guys through a quick PowerPoint here, just going through what we're going to cover today with ACM Dashboard, ACM maps, and the configuration and how to use these things with each other. So first thing we're going to be covering is ACM Dashboard. So this was a new feature that was added a little over a year ago in ACM 5.12.0 that allows you the ability to kind of see what's going on in your system. Gives you system health, shows you the configured objects in your system for your panels, your sub panels, inputs, doors, and even power supplies if you're using the network modules for, with life safety power supplies. You'll notice there is a little asterisk next to the power supply monitoring, and I'm going to cover this a little bit more in depth. But the power supply monitoring is not completely included in the dashboard yet.
Hey, Jerry, sorry to interrupt, dude. I don't think anyone can see your screen.
That is probably because I didn't start the screen sharing. Hang tight, guys. Sorry about that.
That's much better.
Not better. All right.
Nope. There you go.
Good.
There.
You know, we've only done like 16 of these webinars. I figured at some point I'd get them right.
We got it right now. All right.
All right. So you didn't miss much, guys. But what you're seeing here is an image of the dashboard, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more in detail when we get into the live system. But as I said, this is going to cover the system health. Basically, it's going to show you everything that's going on in the system, allow you to see your panels, your sub panels, inputs, doors, and power supplies. And the power supply monitoring feature is a roadmap item for us. Right now, it just provides a link to your NL4 module or your NL2 module to take you to the LSP webpage. So underneath the dashboard in the panel section, this is going to be where you're going to be able to go in and see what panels are configured in your system. So this is at a very high level. So it's showing you the individual panels, and you can drill down into those panels to see the configured sub panels, to see the input, the outputs, and you get control of those items from the panels page. I'm showing here the legend, which is actually available in each one of these menus. So you can see what each one of the different icon types is displaying. So whether it's a normal or it's uninstalled or it's a communication issue, you have all of that information right there at your in your display. Same thing with sub panels. So this is a more granular view of the system. So this takes into account your panels as well as all of your sub panels, and it brings you into each one of the into one of the sub panels. So we've talked about this before, in the initial setup webinar, and for my partners and customers that are on the call here. Naming your devices, naming your objects in ACM is extremely important because it makes it very easy for you to go back and search for these things later on down the road after the system has been installed. So you want to make sure that your subpanels and your panels and your inputs and your outputs are labeled in a very clean way, so that when you're using these dashboards, it's very easy to find these things as you're, as you're looking for them, right? So the next thing is our inputs. This was actually added in version 6.0 of ACM. So we added the individual inputs as a searchable dashboard. And one thing that's actually really cool about the inputs page is one, and all of these are in real time. So we are getting the status of inputs and panels and doors and all of these things in real time. I kind of saw out of the corner of my eye that was a question. But the other thing about this is it provides some control of these items, but it also allows you to directly go to the configuration of those items by a new option called View, which I'll get into when I show the live system. So if you know what you know the input that you're looking for, you can quickly and easily just click View, and it'll take you right there so you can perform configuration of that item. The last part here, and this is a really, kind of customer or end user centric page, is the doors dashboard. So in ACM, we provide two different places for you to see the doors listings. One is here in a dashboard and one is under physical access. This doors dashboard gives you kind of operational control over those doors, so you can see things like the door mode, the door state. You can see what status the device is in or the door is in. Obviously, you get the name. You can go in and you can change those door modes on the fly. So I can quickly and easily change a door from card only to unlocked, or unlocked back to card only. However, I can't configure the doors. So that's why I say this is more of an end user specific type dashboard, because this is a great place for an end user to be able to go into, monitor their doors on a day-to-day basis. They can sort through them, they can create groups. You can see what you want to see and then control those doors, from a single dashboard within the platform, right? So that covers our dashboard section. The next piece that we're going to talk about is our mapping interface. So ACM out of the box provides a mapping interface, and this is a dynamically controlled map that essentially just allows you to bring in any type of image. I've thrown a couple of the most common formats up there: JPEG, PNG, PDF, but it allows you to bring in image formats and then place icons or objects on that map for control or monitoring of those icons or of those objects. Now, I know in a couple of our previous webinars or demonstrations, we've talked about global actions and global linkages and how those can tie with maps and dashboards. I'm going to cover even more in depth how those interact with each other. I'm not going to do a big review of global actions and how to configure them. However, this is just kind of an overview of what you can do with maps. Now, I know this is probably going to end up being a question, so I want to make sure I get it out on the table now. These are static images. They are not GIS maps or Google or Bing maps that you can bring in and place icons on. However, stay tuned. There are some changes coming to the mapping interface and the roadmap of the product that are going to make some of those types of improvements and allow us a little bit more dynamic control of the maps within ACM. So this is showing you kind of the the configuration of maps, and I'm going to go through and kind of show you how this all works together. But these are some of the items that can be added to one of our maps. Obviously, doors, panels, subpanels, inputs and outputs, cameras, the ability to zoom in and out of maps, so go from one map to another. Global actions, so these little gray buttons here, these are all your global actions. And then we've also got area control as well. So if you have areas set in your system for an area tied to a reader, we can get that data from the reader and who is card read into that area directly from within a map. So one of the things I like to talk to people about when it comes to maps is these can be lots of different things, right? So I've even labeled this map as a dashboard, right? So this is more of a security control type dashboard. This is, allowing a customer to be able to make changes to the system or make on the fly changes, see what's going on, have area control, perform global actions, all kinds of different things. But you can look at this from a couple different ways. A map can be just a generalized view of a facility or a set of facilities. It could be a per floor type solution where you're going to put a floor plan on a map and then place doors and icons on it. It can be used for dashboard control. So if you have ACM connected to external systems using IO relays, so output control. Maybe you have ACM connected to a lighting control system and you want to be able to turn lights on and off using a map. You can do that. These maps are extremely powerful and give you a lot of flexibility when it comes to creating maps. One thing that I really do love about our maps is if you configure a map to your customer's needs or an end user, if you guys configure your maps to your needs, a lot of times you can use a map for almost all of your day-to-day operations of your system. You don't really need to, navigate to a whole lot of other places other than that map. So if you have security operators that just need to be able to see a set of doors, we'll place those doors on a map. Have them be able to just see those locations and those doors. Other than doing identity management and things like that, a lot can be done directly from within these maps. A couple of your best practices. We always want to talk about, making sure that you're doing things correctly in these webinars. One of the very first things that you want to make sure that you're doing is you're sizing your maps properly. Everything that you're seeing me do here today is being rendered or resolved in 1080p or 1920 by 1080 resolution. And then when the map is being brought into ACM, I'm actually compressing that into 720p, which is 1280 by 720. Now, the reason that I say that is the larger the size of the file, the longer it is going to take to render. So if you're rendering files on a 4K monitor at 4000 by 2000 or 4000 by 3000, and you have this 20 megabyte or 30 or 40 megabyte file, when you import that into ACM and then you start throwing a bunch of stuff on it, then that's going to take a lot of time for ACM to actually render that back to the operator. So just keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you're making your maps the correct size. You can build maps or dashboards in pretty much any program out there, right? I'm actually going to show you how I did some of the things I did in PowerPoint, which is very simple and easy and provides a great option for generating these types of maps. But if you're fluent in Adobe Illustrator, or even if you want to do these in Microsoft Paint, it doesn't matter. Basically, like I said before, any image file can be brought in to ACM. I personally love to use Google Earth, right? I use Google Earth to get a top-down snapshot of a location, and then I bring that into my editor. So now I've got a location map based on real-world geographics. Currently, we cannot bring CAD files directly into ACM. That is one of the formats that we don't support. So if you want to use a floor plan that's in a CAD format, make sure that you just save it as a PDF before you bring it in. Another great best practice is make sure that you've configured your hardware and you've done all of your configuration stuff prior to doing a map, right? You can't really do maps until you have the things in the system that you want to put on the map. And I know that that sounds simple, but it happens a lot, right? I even do it myself. I'll start creating a map and then I forget, well, I don't have that global action created, but I know that I want to. So I'm kind of going back and forth. So you have to kind of plan out your maps and plan out the the information that you want on them. And then the last one, you'll see where this is really going to come into play because I'm going to use a school district as an example. When you're building like a global map that shows a very large area of stuff, you want to build the individual maps first, and then we'll do some linking to those other other maps from the global one. Okay. So real quick before I move into the demonstration, I'm going to throw out a quick poll. I may actually do two of these in a row. So throwing out a poll, and you guys go ahead and answer that. I'll give you about a minute or so to answer the questions. I always like watching the poll in progress here, see how many of the answers we get. Based on our poll responses, I think this was a really good topic for today. We're actually looking at about just north of 80% of you guys have never deployed ACM maps, so that's great. And we got one guy, sorry about that, Justin. Not sure what's up with the poll, but thank you for your answer. All right. Perfect. We're gonna close that out. Thank you guys for answering. And we're gonna start here with our dashboards. This is really gonna be an overview, guys. I just want you to see in real time on a real-time system what this looks like. So this is my demonstration system, and here is the initial dashboard. And as I mentioned before, this is really system health, right? With ACM, we try to keep things simple when it comes to displaying information. First and foremost, green is good, yellow is not so good, red means you've got to go out there and fix it, right? You're probably sending out your partner or your maintenance crew to go fix it. Luckily, I don't have anything red in my system, so I'm a happy guy. However, based on some of the information that I'm seeing here in my dashboard, I do know that I have some things that are not working. All right, if I look at my panels, I have 9 panels that are configured. And if you notice, when I hover over one of these items, my cursor changes. So if I have an item that has a number associated with it, like panels, this means that I have panels that are offline due to comms failure. If I click this number 3, it's actually going to take me directly to the panels page and shows me the 3 panels that are offline due to a comms failure. Now, comms failure in our world, guys, could mean a lot of things. It could be network, it could be power, it could be a lot of things. So you have to, you're going to have to go through and determine what the problem is. But that's a really cool and easy way for you to simply and easily go in and find, hey, what's going on with my system, right? I have one panel that doesn't have a battery hooked up. Everything else is working, but the battery is not. The rest of this is showing you the other information about the system. So I'm connected to one appliance. I'm green on my RAM, 93% free. That's good stuff. I have both of my network interfaces connected. My CPU load, perfect. Database, perfect. All of this stuff just right here at my eyeballs and giving me the information directly from the interface. So one of the things I know I mentioned was we have the ability to go into our panels. So this is real-time information. I am seeing what my panels are doing. I'm getting, the panel name, the model, firmware, IP address, MAC address if available. I can drill down into any one of these. So we'll go into my advanced kit here, and now you can see the sub panels. I can see the doors or the inputs that are associated with doors on this. I get my outputs. If I had elevator control, I have all of that right here at my fingertips. So this is, like I said, this is that kind of 30,000 foot view of the system. I do have individual control over the inputs. I do also have individual control over outputs as long as they are not connected to a door. So each one of these I have the ability to go through and make changes to or turn on and off depending on what I need to do. And I can get even more granular than that by going into the sub panels. So now sub panels takes away all of the panel information and it just spreads out all of that, all of the sub panels that are configured on my system. And I have all of that once again here in dashboard view, right? Same abilities here. I can go in and I can mask and unmask inputs. I can click this view button and that will take me directly to that input. So I said this was kind of one of the cool features about these dashboards. For you installers on the call, when you're out there installing a system and you got one guy on the other end of your phone and you're like, hey, open the door, close the door, open the door, close the door, and you see this thing, flickering between red and green. Well, now I don't have to go into my panels and then try to search for where that input is if I need to make a change to it. Maybe I need to change the EOL or something like that. I can simply just go click, view, open a new tab, and there you go. I can change this name. This is now input 2, right? Whatever we want to call it. I can make my changes. And if I refresh this page, then I'll be able to see that change to the sub panel, right? So it is real time for monitoring. It's not real time for changes. So if I do make a change in the system, I will have to refresh this page. Very similar here with inputs. If you have a large system with a lot of inputs, you're gonna have to scroll for quite a long time. Like my system is here, I got a lot of inputs. But same thing, if I need to be able to mask or unmask an input or go and view that, I can really simply and easily. And like I said, this is in real time. So if there is a change of state in the system, green means that it's inactive, red means that it's active. If this is an input and it's offline, that means it's going to be yellow. Okay, so this isn't bad per se. This just means that input is not connected to anything, or that input is not available on the system right now. The last thing, or the second to last thing we'll talk about with dashboards is our doors, right? So as I mentioned before, this is really kind of customer centric. This is showing me all of the doors that are configured on my system and the different statuses and states that they're in. So I have doors that are normal. I have doors that are offline, right? So I have this one's actually not even plugged in, but I get a read head offline. I'm seeing door forced and door held. And if I don't know what any of this stuff means, I just click on the legend and it tells me, right? Here's all my information about those doors. Much like the doors listings page, I can go in and I can sort these. So I can say, hey, I only care about what's normal on my system. I only want green checkboxes. So I can sort those. I can turn that off. I can sort these by a specific group. So if I go in and now I see everything that's for building 3, I can go back to my all doors and now I see everything. If I want to search for a specific door, I can. If I want to make a individual change to these doors, I can, right? So if I want to now unlock these 3 doors, I can do that from this interface. So now I'm unlocking these 3 doors and I get a different device status and I get this cool blue border around the doors. So this is showing me that I have individual control of the doors, and it also tells all operators on the system that a manual change has been made by another operator. So if you've got 2 or 3 people that are in your system monitoring the system and they see, hey, that's blue, somebody probably made a change to that. I don't want to change that back unless I talk to them first. I can individually control the restore on these by clicking this restore return button, or I can restore them all from a single click. I also can go in and change the mode. So right now we've got 3 doors. They're all on different modes. One's card or pin, card only, card only. Maybe I want to make all of these card or pin. So now I perform a manual change and all 3 doors will go to card or pin, and I can easily restore those back if I need to. So this is all of the manual process of being able to change doors using the doors listings, or I'm sorry, the doors dashboard. The last piece that I'll show you, unfortunately, I can't click on this because my NL4 is not plugged in right now. But this is if you're using the Life Safety Power NL modules and you want a status of those modules, you can configure that in your external system here, and then you can link to your NL module webpage from the dashboard. Okay. So before I go into maps, one more poll here, guys. Actually, I want to drag that one over here. Let's do one more poll. Let's go with this guy. Quick poll, guys, and then we're going to get into maps. Looking good. Thank you for all the answers. Love having help from my team with the questions. Thank you very much, Francisco and Rob, for all your help there. Ed, you always have the best questions. Thank you, sir. All right, let's get back to this. So I told you that you can build maps in just about anything. I happen to love building maps in PowerPoint. So I'm gonna kind of go through what I've done here, and I'm not gonna do this from start to finish. As you guys can see, I've just kind of created a couple things here. This happens to be Rockland Unified School District, which is my local school district here. Both my children go to Rockland schools, or at least they will, hopefully back in September. And if anybody who's on the call wants to help me get in, that'd be great. But this is a simple map that I have created, right? I went in and I took a Google Earth image of, the city of Rockland where I live. And this is the general location of each one of these schools. Now, the idea behind this map is I had a plan. My plan was I want a general global coverage of the entire school district, or at least these 5 schools, because there's about 17 in our district. But I want general coverage of all of my schools, and I want to be able to click on each one of these and take me to a school map. I also want operational control individually over each school's lockdown, but I also want the ability to create a district-wide lockdown. Now, based on everything that I have in this map, I've gone in and I've also created global actions, global linkages, all of that programming that we talked about before. We need all of that before I can, really figure out what I'm going to put on these maps. But this helps me determine what I'm going to put in a map. Then we drill down into the school site, right? So at the school, the customer has told me they want one button to be able to unlock the front door, right? They want to walk in, they'll card read in the morning, and then someone will manually unlock that door. And at the end of the day, they'll manually restore that door. If the door is locked, they want a button to quickly and easily just grant access to that door. They also need the ability to change their schedule. So there's I can create a global action that changes the bell schedule or the school schedule. So instead of starting at 8 a.m. and opening all the doors at 8 a.m., maybe we start at 9 a.m. and we open all the doors at 9 a.m. Normal schedule for, being able to change it back to a normal schedule. And then I threw this one in here kind of for fun, right? So this is going to be an output control that would allow me to turn on the lights in the football stadium, right? So this would be an output from ACM wired into the lighting control system. And when I trigger that output, I can turn the lights on or off. Same thing with arming and disarming the alarm and creating the lockdowns and the restores. I've also left this section open here so that I can do area control. I can set a couple different areas in here, and I'll show you what that looks like in ACM. And then I've got a spot down here at the bottom so that I can return to the top level. So once again, planning is part of the process when it comes to maps. You want to make sure that you're planning out your maps, appropriately. And then once I'm ready to, I just save this as a JPEG, export, change file type, save it as a JPEG, which I've already done. So I'm not going to do that again. And then we're left with this. Right, so here is that Rockland Unified School District Security Dashboard map that I created. Now, this map is extremely detailed. It has all 5 of the schools on them. I've created a zoom in to each one of the schools. I've also included an output on each one of the schools so that I get a visual notification of when a lockdown has been performed. So I can now have district operational control over all of the schools in my district. So if I trigger a lockdown, you'll see, it's kind of hard to see, but we'll zoom in here. If we look at the schools, based on that output point going active, I now can tell that I have all 5 of my schools in a lockdown scenario, okay? I also have the ability to restore individual schools. So I can say, hey, Rockland High School is fine now. We're going to restore that lockdown, and that's going to change. Or if I need to restore the entire district, I can do that from the same click of a button. Now, what's great is because I have this global lockdown or this global map, I also have the ability to go in individually into maps and see what's going on based on the school. And I am going to show you guys the configuration of all this. I just wanted to kind of go through what I had configured here. So let's make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. And here we go. Now I've drilled down directly into Rockland High School. I have several doors on my map. Each one of these doors allows me individual control. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unlock a couple of these doors here. you'll see, much like when I made that manual mode change before over in the doors dashboard, I get the blue border around the door. All right, so we're gonna unlock a couple of these doors. We'll make them go back. And I get my border around the doors as I'm unlocking them. And now I have all of the control at my fingertips. If a school site administrator needed to trigger a lockdown, they have the ability to create that lockdown. And now these doors went into lockdown and they can restore it. And if I were looking at my global map, I would also see that the school went into lockdown as well, right? So all of that's happening in real time. Each one of these little buttons is just a global action, right? So the little gray buttons are are global actions. I do have area control set up. So this is a reader that is tied to an area. And as my teachers and my staff members have card read into the school, maybe they're card reading into their classrooms or they're card reading into the administration building, I'm capturing that card read and I can see I have 30 people inside the school, but I still have 3 people that have not checked in yet. What's really cool is now that I'm here in my localized dashboard, I can return to my global dashboard with a single click. So if you think about what you can do with these maps and creating floor plans, right? If I have a building that has 5 or 6 floors, I can have a map per floor and I can create these cascading maps to go directly into these individual areas as I need to, right? So all of that at your fingertips. So I'm going to bring up ACM here and we're going to go through the configuration of that. Real quick before I do that, one more poll for you guys. Kind of wanted to see, this is a good question for everybody, and we are going to be taking some of these answers up to our product management team. So this is your time, guys. For those of you who have been working with maps, or maybe you haven't and you haven't seen what you want yet, answer those questions for me, and we'll get into creating of maps.
Hey, Jared, so I'm getting some feedback here from some folks in this call. They're saying I cannot vote. So try to come off a full screen in your presentation. So for folks that are trying to vote and you don't see the poll, try to come off a full screen for this presentation. You should see the poll somewhere around that.
Thanks, Francisco.
Sure.
And as always, guys, if you're not able to answer something, you can throw it into the chat. You can also throw it in the questions box. You can also reach out to your local SC. We're always open to taking your questions and your advice and your feature enhancements. So please get us that information when you can. I love it. Great question or great answers here, guys. All right. Apologize for the polls not working out. Maybe we'll skip the last one here. And let's get right back into it. So I have some maps configured here in ACM, and I did bring it up in the browser. It's just a little bit easier for me to kind of run through the configuration here in the browser. So you can see if I go into the Rockland School District, this is the same map that we saw over in ACC, and I am viewing this map. So right now, I am just looking at it from an operator standpoint. If I want to configure maps, I come up here to the setup and settings wheel and down to maps. And now you'll see the ability for me to go in and change these. So if we let's look at Rockland High School, and I'll show you what I configured on this one, and then we'll kind of go through and configure a blank one as well. So here I have my doors, right? So as I want to add doors to the system or modify the doors that are there, I can simply add another door. You'll see that it pops up here in the upper left-hand corner, and I just drag it where I want to go and then pick the door that's associated to that location. Now, one thing that, kind of a best practice here, one thing that I do see guys doing that I don't recommend you do is don't click this add button 7 times and then not, drag them over first. If you do that, then you're kind of not going to know what you're putting where, because it's just going to put them all on top of each other, and then you'll spend more time figuring out what you did. So do them one at a time. It does take a little bit more time doing it that way, but you'll ensure that you're putting things in the right place. But as we talked about, these are all the things that I can put on a map: panels, subpanels, inputs, outputs. So panels is going to show me the status of that panel. Same thing with subpanels. inputs, outputs. You'll notice here for my stadium lights, I have an output at this location. So this gives me the ability to turn it on, turn it off, pulse it. You know, if we want to have a a dance party in the stadium, I can click there, sit there clicking pulse over and over and over. We also have the ability to zoom in and zoom out. So on this map, I have a zoom out that takes me back to my previous map. And then I've got a bunch of global actions, right? So these are all of the global actions that I have configured. So I have my unlock, my restore, my grant, arming and disarming the alarm, and my lockdown and restore. As we talked about in Rob's presentation on Wednesday, for a lot of things that we do with global actions, you're going to have an action and then you're going to have a restore action. So you have to take that into consideration when you're doing maps as well, because you're typically going to have some sort of turn it on and turn it off or restore it back to normal. So this is, an example of one that's already done. Well, what about an example of one that's not done? So let's go in and we're going to add a new map template, because I don't believe I have one created for Whitney High School, right? So Whitney High School dashboard, right? So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to go in files, and I'm going to find the file of that I created earlier in PowerPoint. Now I have the option of picking that one, or if we have just a regular floor plan, I can. So this one happens to be a JPEG, and you'll notice that I actually didn't show you this before, but I did, explain it, that I rendered this map in 1080p. So this was actually rendered much, a little bit larger, almost double the size. However, because I want this to render nicely both in the client view or any client view and in ACC, I'm using 720p. Okay, so I'm using 1280 by 720. And you'll notice that when this map displays on the screen, it doesn't stretch my screen way out here to the right. It's actually going to fit in the window just about perfectly. So basically, if you kind of understand what I'm saying, is that ACM renders best in that 720p. You can make it larger as long as your client workstations can see 1080p or greater resolution. So I have my image. If I want to start placing things on this, I'm gonna go ahead and start with actually my doors. So I have everything nice and labeled here. We told you that was a good idea. So I'm just gonna start placing a couple of doors on the map here. I'm not gonna do all of them, guys, because I think you guys will kind of get the idea. So we put a couple of our doors. Let's go with what else do I have? Where's Whitney? Another verify station. All right, and I got another one here, my emulator 3. We'll put this guy way over here. Right, and obviously in your situation, this is going to be based on where these doors physically are. Now, I am using a top-down map, right? So this is a Google Earth image. It's not very granular. This is basically, 500 feet above the school. So I can't really put, two doors right next to each other. If I needed to, then I would want a more granular map. Maybe I want just a map of the administration building or a map of the multi-purpose building, where this is more zoomed in and I'm going to place those individual items there. So once again, that comes back to planning, right? I have had a lot of customers and partners that will put their panels on these maps as well. So this is kind of a cool idea or good idea. If you place your panel on this map, it is going to give you status of that panel, but it's also a good idea to do that just so you know where the things are, right? This is a good way to teach your customers, have your end users know, hey, Mr. Customer, when I tell you to go, check that panel, it's in the IDF, in the administration building, and it's, right about there. So you don't have to go, searching for something where you may not know where it is, right? I have the ability, once again, throw inputs and outputs on here. So an input looks like a little box with an in sign going to it. I can put outputs. So this one here, we have that stadium light. So let's find that. We're going to find the output. I just happen to call it turn on the light. And you'll see I get this icon here, and we'll put it there, all right? And these can be moved around. Once I've placed them on a map, you can always move them later. One thing you will notice, this does say cameras, and I do have a camera connected to my system. Now, this is using either an external system to bring in a camera, basically just a direct IP camera, or in my case, I'm actually bringing this camera from from an external source, which happens to be an exact system. This is actually not even tied to ACC. You can have your system bring in cameras from ACC as well. However, it's not going to link them to the ACC video feed. So it's not going to link them to the ACC client. It's going to link them to the RTSP stream coming from that IP camera. So if you do have a customer that's like, hey, I want to do everything from here, from within ACM, it is certainly possible to put cameras on here. However, it's just dependent on how your system is configured. So I'm going to throw this camera on here as well. We'll just throw it over here in the corner. Let's do our zoom out to our back to our main dashboard, which was Rockland School District. Put that down here. We're going to throw a couple of our global actions on here because I don't think I have them all configured. We're just going to say, hey, let's just do this one. Here's our school lockdown, and here is our restore. All right, and this is general, guys, right? I haven't gone through and configured everything for this system yet, but I certainly could. And then the last thing that I want to throw on here is that area control. And area control is done under dashboard elements. Now, dashboard elements is kind of a generic term. This can be something simple. This could be just a label, right? So if I want to just label something on a map, I can, and it's gonna show up there. If I want to change the font color, I certainly can. I want to change it to small. I want it to be more opaque, I can do that. You can manually set the location. However, if I change this element type to graphic and text, you'll notice that I now can either change this to a circle or a square. I don't know, for my application, a square works better. And at about 150 pixels, I think it fits nicely within that box. Now, this title is going to now refer to my area because I'm going to associate this this element to my area, right? So this inside school is going to mirror this inside office, or maybe the RHS inside school. And once I save this, all of the information that I've put on here is now stored there. If I need to move something around, like I said, I certainly can. I can move this door over here. I can move this door over here. I want this on this side. I can do that. Right? You can always make changes after the fact. Once I save this and I go back to my maps, we can now see, much like what we saw with the other dashboards, I now have all of that information that I put on this map. So here's my doors. Here's my panel. I can see what's going on in the panel. Here's my output. I can turn it on. You'll see it turns red. I can turn it off. Goes back to green. I can go into my lockdown. This is actually going to lock down a bunch of other doors because I used a different global action. However, I could create those lockdown scenarios that the customer needs. I get my area controls so you see who's in, who's card read in and who's card read out. And then if I need to go back up to the top menu, I can click here, and now I'm going to go back up to our district map. So as I mentioned before, as you kind of think about the workflow here, I really couldn't create this map and do all of this work before I had the other ones created, other than maybe the zoom out to the top level. Now, the cool thing is I can create the maps and import all of the files, and then I can always go back and create the objects on the maps. But this is just a really simple and easy way for you to get information into your end users so that they don't have to navigate through the entire system to find all kinds of different things. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm just going to go back in. I want to show you guys one more thing here because we've been dealing with maps that I've created. I happened to also download just a commercial floor plan, right? I didn't have any available. So I just went and found this floor plan here. Here we go. Of a floor plan. And this gives us, open workspace, meeting space, office, and same thing. I can go through here and I can put the doors and the objects that I want to put on this map. If this is a picture of your dog, you could use that. Whatever it works for you. The other thing that you can do is you can create blank canvases. So I can go in and create an individual blank canvas that's the size that I want it to be, right? So 1280 by 720. Oop, got to give it a name, sorry. We're going to call it dashboard. Give it a name. I now have a blank canvas. There's nothing on here. There's no background. There's no nothing. However, this could be used as a simple dashboard for certain controls. So if I just needed to do a very blanket, area control, I can just say, hey, I'm going to put, all of my areas on one location. Graphic and text, inside office, it's a circle. We want to make it smaller, make it a little opaque so it looks cooler. Change that. Maybe we want it to be a square, right? Change the color, make this one red. I like red. And we'll make it a little bit smaller, right? So now I can go in and I can start adding all of these different area controls to this graphical map that could just be something that someone could quickly and easily look at that's going to show them, hey, what's going on in my school, or what's going on in my building. I just need to see what's going on. You can also use these dashboard elements to just label things. So I could use this dashboard element right here, this office one, and I could rename this, inside office. This doesn't get me away from, being able to do or doing a more detailed map, but it does give me the ability to quickly and easily label some of the items in my system, right? So now if we go to this dashboard, we'll see I've got the inside office, and I didn't say that correctly, but this is going to show me what's going on in that one area. So there are use cases for using a blank dashboard, but in most cases, you're going to be using some sort of image format for that. For Craig there, the setup and settings tab is right up here in the upper right-hand corner. There is a little wheel, and then you come down to the maps, and that's where we're making, that's where we're making those changes. Got a little click happy there, guys. With that, I'm gonna throw out the last poll, and I'm gonna leave that up for about a minute. We're gonna add, give you guys some time to answer some questions. Hopefully the poll comes through okay, guys. I apologize if it's freaking out. And then after this last poll, please, if you have any additional questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And then Francisco, if there's anything I haven't answered, you wanna let me know?
I think we got covered, and thanks everyone for your participation. There's a lot of questions in there, very nice ones. Thanks so much. And one thing here, if you have additional questions or you're trying to do this configuration and you need help, please contact your local SC. For West Coast is Jared. For Central will be Rob Foster. For Southeast, it's me, Francisco, and then from the Northeast is Ryan, is the new addition for our team. So just get in contact with us. We can dive in more details in those things. Keep coming to questions. People are still having problems with the voting. If you want to throw your vote in the question section, is fine by us. We'll take it.
Awesome. And since I'm seeing the majority here right now is about 55%, 56% now of our answers have been, we want to see maps in ACC. Believe it or not, we agree with you. We want to be able to see a lot of things in both platforms. We try not to talk too much about roadmap on these webinars. However, there are some major improvements coming to mapping from within, from Avigilon for both ACM and ACC in a future version. So stay tuned for that. I do want to quickly touch on something, and for those of you guys who were in my unification demonstration a couple weeks ago, you've seen this before. If you've been on a demonstration with me, you've seen this before. But I wanted to kind of show, here's what I have, and this is something that I like to show people as a, kind of a normal operator's view, right? So I have up here, here's my ACM map. This is my normal every day. This is what's going on in my system. I have normal operation. I can turn on my card wheel so you guys can see the card spinning around. I get my verification here of Mr. Billy going through the door. And then down here, currently, I have a separate ACC map. Now, using unification, I have these things talking to each other, right? So when I use my ACM map, I'm controlling the access control system. However, for certain events in my system that are important, I want them to display on an ACC map. So when I have doors linked to cameras and I trigger a lockdown, you'll notice that that same map, because those doors are linked to these cameras and the alarm event is linked to them, the cameras go into alarm and I can see them flashing on my screen. Now, the goal or the hope in the future is you will only have one map, right? That's where we want to get. That's where unification is headed. As of today, this is not a bad way to do it. I have operational control of my ACM system, and then I have control of everything of my ACC system. So if I need to pull up this one camera, I certainly can. I can just double click on it and it brings it up in a new view. And then when I create the restore action for my lockdown, the cameras restore and they go back to normal, right? Focus of attention goes away, all of that stuff that we've seen in our previous demonstrations with unification. So can you build an ACM ACC master with multiple slaves? That is some future, or is that some future concept? Jeff, the answer to that is yes. It's kind of a future idea. One, the unification of the maps working together is going to be kind of the groundwork for that, allowing us one place to be able to do all of our mapping from, and then be able to create sub maps from that, or localized maps based on specific areas. We're looking at a lot of different options, and we're already down the road with what we're going to be doing with ACC and ACM maps. So I have to tell you guys, be patient with us, but it is going to be really cool when you guys see it. Any other questions? Anything you guys would like to see? Anything I missed?
Hey, Jared.
Yeah.
I might miss that when you did it, but did you talk about the zooming in, zooming out capabilities on the map?
I did. So right. I do have one. Just kind of go through it one more time here.
I think that maybe this last question here could be somewhat related to that.
True.
So the
ability very true.
To jump from one map to another.
Yep.
Jeff, is that what you're asking? If not, just you can come up online or just put in the questions here. We'll try to answer better.
Yeah. So what I have here on the map, Jeff, and everybody, each one of these school locations, and if I zoom in a little bit, it's probably easier to see. But each one of these locations that I created in my map, I have a zoom icon, right? So this is a zoom in that would take me to that location. So if I hit that, it's basically opening the page for that next map. So now I'm going from my global map, seeing the entire district, to an individual school site or an individual building or a certain floor. And then when I want to return back to the top menu, I have one in that map that takes me back to the original or the global site. So Jeff, hopefully that answers your question, or anybody else that had that question as well.
There's no more questions in the question session.
I see that. Really like supporting the individual system maps overview of the central. Yes, kind of more of a future item, Jeff, and we can talk about that one a little bit more in depth offline. That is more of a roadmap item that probably not the best place to talk about here. Any other questions, guys? This is the first time I've ended one of these things early, so I'm trying to set a precedence here. Need to address network outage issues. Understood. I got you. So one of the, if I'm reading that correctly, Jeff, one of the things that we can, that we don't have on a global map like this if you were using a multiple ACM appliances, is we don't have appliance status that could be displayed on a map. However, one of the ways that I was actually able to do, basically lockdown notification was this output, right? So all this is an output that is triggering as a part of my lockdown scenario. So that is something, if obviously if everything is online, that works because the appliance is going to turn the output on and then we're going to get that notification. Now, the one thing that you could do on a global map like this would be maybe have some of the main panels that are online and the status of those panels, so that if the appliance loses connectivity to the panel or the panel goes offline, that shows up as red, and then you can go in and look at it. But to specifically answer your question, currently no. On a global scale, if you had multiple appliances, you're not going to be able to display the individual appliances on a map, right? So if we're looking at an entire state or the country or something like that, that's going to be difficult to do. And we would pretty much do that through the dashboards, not through these maps. There is also notification that we can do on some of that stuff too. So Jeff, I might just reach out to you directly and we'll talk a little bit more of that one. All right, guys. Hey, I don't mind wrapping up a couple minutes early. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to one of your local SCs. Francisco, since I know you're on and doing your thing, what do we got lined up for Monday?
So, all right, Monday, guys. So Monday webinar is at noon Eastern time. So we are going to talk about OSDP protocol, readers, and the things, the advantage that you can take of that new protocol connected to readers, how you configure the reader. So there is some HID readers now that others offer OSDP as well, but the HID has an app that you can go and configure the reader, do some other things. So we're going to cover all that. So come in again next Monday at noon Eastern time, and I hope to see you all there.
9 a.m. for us Pacific folks. And then Rob, what do we got for Wednesday?
So Wednesday we have elevator control. So everything you ever wanted to know about elevator control using ACM, we'll cover that on Wednesday, noon Central time.
Awesome. And then next Friday, guys, this is going to be kind of a partner-centric one, but also going to have some great information about for our end users. I'm actually going to be inviting Ethan Hopkins, who is one of our peers, to talk about licensing, both with ACM and a little bit with ACC as well. So a great session for everybody who may have questions about licensing, how to license your system, what you're going to see in the license portal, all of that good stuff. Please join us. Make sure if you're not getting the webinars, the link information, that you reach out to one of us and we'll make sure you get it. And please share. We're more than happy to have as many people on here. Love having you guys. Great questions today. Thank you for kind of working through the poll issues, and have a great weekend. I know we're all getting ready for it. So thank you all and have a great day.
Have a great weekend, everyone. See you on Monday.